G'day guys, Toast20 here, welcome back to Oceania. Today we're going to be keeping it all time-lapse. There is a lot to build and quite a lot to talk about. We're going to be looking at where that tram network is going to be heading. Yeah, that's right, we're going to be putting a tram into Dundee and also what the livery is going to look like. We're also going to talk about some of the problems within this series. I'm encountering a couple of problems and want to talk about them. And then the build. I mean, we're going to be doing some pretty fun detailing and expansion within this episode. Stuff inspired by Bondi, inspired by St Kilda, but we're just going to set the scene, have a look at this. We've got a little bit of a land value problem going on. These sort of notifications are usually hidden within Oceania. I don't usually have these settings turned on, but because I've been working on Mile Bay, I'm starting to see these, and I actually kind of like it because it shows that there is a problem with land value. There's a couple of problems within the city, and I want to fix them. So we are going to work on some of the land value, try and bump that up a bit more, putting in some parks, putting in some commercial areas with medical clinics and schools and police stations, all that stuff to actually show that this area does have that land value, because a lot of those houses are at the max level that they can get up to. So I want to make sure that this area is actually nice. But anyway, that's the scene, that's what we're getting up to. So to talk completely unrelated to City Skylines just for a little while, I wanted to let you know that for this month, the month of November, I'm going to be participating in fundraising as part of Movember. So fun little pun there, changing the N to an M, and just going to be growing a dirty old moustache for the whole month. In fact, I've already got a moustache. I figured I should have a moustache for the entire month. If you want to check it out, it's on Twitter. It's also on my Instagram. It absolutely does not suit me. It looks quite terrible. But as part of the fundraising, it is part of a greater cause. I'm growing the mo to raise awareness for men's health. Statistically, men die on average 5 years earlier than women, and for largely preventable reasons. The money that I raise will go towards mental health programs and prostate and testicular cancer research. The ad revenue from this episode will be donated, and we'll also do a fundraising live stream sometime this month. As well as growing the moustache, I am going to be taking on a bit more accountability for my own health. So I have set myself a challenge to run 100 kilometers for the month of November. You know, I do a run or two a week, averaging probably about 7 kilometers. So I reckon I'm probably doing about 30 kilometers maximum every month. So boosting that up to 100 is going to be an absolute stretch. It's going to be really tough, but I know how important that's going to be for my body, for my mental health. Running clears my head like nothing else. But yet I make way too many excuses and I just don't get out enough. And speaking of excuses, I've booked myself in to do two things that I say I'm going to do every month and never do, and I've been saying this for years. One of those things is getting my skin checked, which is something all Australians should get done every year, and then I've also booked myself in to do something that I just hate the thought of, but I've booked myself in to get my bloods taken. I say I'm going to do this every month and chicken out every month. I've made the appointment, I'm getting it done, and I'm going to get into the routine that every November, every year, these are the appointments that I'm going to keep. So the point of sharing all this very personal information with you guys, and sorry if it's a bit of an overshare, but I think it's really important to have these conversations. The point is for me not to do these things by myself, but I'm hoping that maybe you guys are out there and thinking the same thing. Maybe I need to get myself checked up. Maybe I need to do a little bit more physical exercise, or maybe I need to give my mate a call or check in with my dad or my brother. You know, how are they going? Is there anybody in your life that you might need to get in touch with? So I do encourage you guys to get involved by doing any of those things that I've just mentioned. Donating to the cause would be fantastic. You can also follow me on Strava, which is where I'm going to be logging all of my runs. That's a great way to keep me accountable, and I'll follow back to keep you accountable. If you're trying to get a bit more physical exercise in your life, well, let's do it, guy. Like I said, this works better if we all get involved. So if this has helped you get your ass into gear, or if you're taking on any of these challenges, let me know in the comments or feel free to DM me. But thank you so much for listening to all this. Let's talk about what we're doing in game now. So far, we've just been expanding out a little bit more of the residential areas of this neighborhood, of this part of Dundee. Like I said, I wanted it to have higher land value, so I've been working on some parks and putting in some more services, really trying to look at places where those parks really do lie, and then just turning them into parks, making them into a district, and that works pretty nicely. But I'm finding, because this is on the outer edge of the city, at this stage at least, The land value really comes from the fact that there's nothing else really around here. So that's going to be a problem, I guess, up until we start expanding out a little bit further. And this kind of ties in, I guess, with the problem that we're encountering with this series. And I'm going to talk about that probably towards the end of this episode. But what we've been working on as well is the commercial districts for this area. And I did mention I wanted this to be inspired by Bondi, which, of course, I mean, internationally as well. You guys know where Bondi is. It's a part of Sydney. It's very iconic. I think people think of Bondi when they think of beaches within Australia. And look, I'm going to be honest, it's nice, but there are much nicer beaches within Sydney. I mean, just down the road is Bronte Beach, which is like 10 times better. Even Coogee is a little bit better. Like Coogee Beach is actually quite nice. Bondi Beach is very touristy, and it's the sort of place you only really go if you're trying to, I don't know, impress your friend who lives overseas who's visiting your house, you know? You don't really go there unless they've got a other reason to go there besides going to the beach. But usually if you're going to the beach, at least for me, you go somewhere else. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry if you live in Bondi. Bondi is really nice. Can I just say that? Bondi is a really nice beach, but it's just one of those places where there are actually just nicer beaches just down the road. But I think in terms of building something like a touristic beach within Dundee, I mean, of course we're going to be doing it based on Bondi, but we're going to be taking inspiration from a couple of other beaches around Australia. I'm also looking at St Kilda Beach, which I love so much. Like, I've been to Melbourne quite a few times now, and pretty much every time I go to St Kilda, just because there's a real vibe down there. It's a lot of fun. Some great bars, some great restaurants, and the beachfront's quite nice as well. There's no waves, it's in this bay area, but the whole area is really, really cool. There's another area just a little further on, past Luna Park. I can't remember, maybe that's still St Kilda, maybe not, it's something else. I'm sure there's a name on screen. That's what it's called, but I can't remember. It's escaped my brain. But yeah, we're also going to be checking out a bit of Coogee Beach and some other beaches around Sydney as well, because they've got a pretty similar thing going on. But I think the most amount of inspiration, we're going to be looking at Bondi. Like, the main layout is going to be very much Bondi inspired. But there will be some elements of other things. But as you can see, we're still expanding out a little bit around these areas. I'm putting in another school because this area just was like a weird little spot over here. And I really wanted to fix up this spot just a little bit more because, I don't know, it just felt a little bit incomplete. And I don't think we're going to be building out this way anytime soon. I almost feel like it's going to be one of those areas that, we just might never get to. We've got so many other places I want to get to, and this area just might not be one of those spots. So I just sort of wanted to make sure that I had at least something there. Otherwise, it goes incomplete for way too long, and I always think I'm just going to build out that way, but we just don't. Now, something I wanted to build, something I wanted to place around this area too was I wanted to start getting some more of the businesses, the custom businesses within Dundee. And here we have Coral. This is the petrol, I guess the main petrol brand that sits within Oceania, and you'll be seeing it plastered around everywhere. It's obviously a parody of Shell's petrol station, and I just love that it's called Coral because I think that's a nice little connection to the Great Barrier Reef within Australia. But then there's also, the irony that it's called Coral because, I mean, coral would just be so badly affected by cars and petrol and oil that it's kind of ironic that it's called Coral. But this whole area, I wanted to have a bunch of our companies, our custom companies around. So you can see that I'm putting down some banks, and we'll have a couple of fast food areas. This is going to be a pretty touristic and detailed area. I don't plan to do this amount of detail in every part of Dundee. I mean, you guys know that by now. We can't detail absolutely everywhere. The city is just becoming too large, and the series is, chugging along. We're definitely in the middle of this thing. And I'm still sort of trying to take care of a bit of land value, putting in some fire stations, and I'll be putting in a police station in just a second too. Oh, and I've also placed down a massive mall. I mean, how do you like that mall sitting in there? I mean, don't answer that question. I'm not changing it. So, I mean, you can tell me, but I'm not changing it because it's there. And I kind of like it. I kind of like where it sits. The gradient around here, I tried to show you a little bit of it, but the gradient is just insane. Like, it's so steep. I make this mistake every single time. I always think we've got plenty of room to grow and to make these this road layout work and the buildings work within the gradients, but it never does. So we've got some pretty crazy steep stuff going on. And I mean, speak of the devil, we are starting to work on this station, this metro hub. There's a bunch of things popping into here. There's a metro line that comes into this area, and we've also got the bus network too. And at some stage, we'll probably end up putting, I mean, it's there, but we haven't. There's no trams at the moment, but there's gonna be a tram network. So that is something that I asked you guys. I didn't know that so many of you guys wanted me to do trams, but like, people are keen. So we're gonna be doing some trams. They're gonna stretch all the way out to this beach area, and I mean, it's gonna look great. I think I'm so glad that you guys wanted me to place them down. It means we're pretty much using all the modes of public transport, but I mean, who cares? They look cool. I think, you know, there's quite a few cities within Australia and within New Zealand that have, you know, trams or some sort of light rail. We're going to be mostly basing them off the tram network within Melbourne. It won't be quite as extensive. There'll probably need to be a few lines. I'm going to put it to you guys. Where do you think the lines should go? How do you think they should behave? I don't mind there being some loops. I know that trams typically go end to end from one spot to another and then back the way they go. The game wants you to do it in a loop. I think maybe we just do a couple of loops. Like, I'm kind of just over trying to make the end-to-end system work because it really just doesn't. I gotta do some tricky things that's always a bit of a pain to do. So I don't know, maybe we just do some full circuits. So you guys let me know, where should they go? How should they behave? We're going to be using the Melbourne models for the actual cars, but the livery, we don't actually have one yet. So Blue Thunder, who has created all the liveries for the buses within Dundee, and he has very kindly suggested that, what about we put it to you guys? Would you guys like to create the livery? If you go onto my Discord, you can find a template on there within the Oceania discussion, and you can create your own style and make it look how you think it should look. You can base it on any of the ones, I mean, anywhere really. If you want to do one from New Zealand or from Australia or even somewhere else around the world, be really interested in seeing what you guys come up with. And then he will take that and put it onto the trams. So if you want to get involved, link to that channel on Discord is in the description below. And within that channel, you'll also find a picture of Dundee, and feel free to figure out where you think the tram network should go. I'll be putting that in after I get some suggestions, so feel free to hit me up over there. And obviously the Tramline's going to come out this way. That's going to be inspired by St Kilda, which is how I've always got into St Kilda, is from the Tramline. It's always cool when it comes along this beach area. So we'll have a terminal out this way. As you can see, it's pretty built up. A lot of people live out here. We are using the Rico mod, which means some of these buildings, some of these apartments hold, you know, 100 plus residents. So this is a very, very busy area. You know, probably maybe the second largest population in terms of neighborhoods. Also, name suggestions for this place. I think someone once suggested Bondi Beach. You know, it's obviously inspired by Bondi Beach, maybe Bindi Irwin, potentially a bit of inspiration there. I kind of like that name, but if you got some ideas, let me know, and any stories or information want to add to this, far out. I know this is information overload, participation overload as well, but I mean, we are making an interactive map for Dundee for Oceania, and the best way to get your suggestions and inputs or input into it is leaving a comment or jumping onto Discord and leaving a comment down there. All right, how about we just talk about what we've been up to? First of all, I realized that the beach was way too large and decided to add in an extra headland and an extra beach, which we'll be working on a little later on in this episode. I've also used one of the keys to just put around the entire beach, which just looks so nice. I wasn't anticipating doing this. Glad I did, because man, it looks good. And I've even dragged one up for the road, because this is where the parking area is. Again, inspired by Bondi. This whole area, this whole network is inspired by Bondi. I think it looks quite nice. And I've also done a custom stairway up there and this area that comes down to the beach so that you can just access the beach straight away, this whole stairway. That stairway is actually inspired by Manly Beach, which is in Sydney. Really great. I love this beach so much. Probably one of my favorite beaches to go to, and this is sort of inspired by that area. Also wanted to make sure that it was accessible by everyone, so I've got 2 ramps on either side of the stairwell. And I mean, this whole area just turned out so nice. I'm so happy with it. You know, sometimes you build these areas and they take a really long time to put together, and you're kind of like, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad I put the effort into it. This was surprisingly really easy just to, like, you know, drag a couple of networks and drag a couple of paths, and it was like, far out. This is an easy thing to put together, and it looks so damn nice. Like, I'm really happy with how it turned out. And you wait until you see everyone walking around this area, because we make this whole area into a park. So people are catching the metro to come to the beach and visit it, and you know, it's increasing the land value around this area. You know, the more people are coming and the more facilities we put in the park. So it's actually quite a high up leveled park, which is super nice because it is probably one of the nicest beaches, or at least one of the most visited beaches within Dundee. So I don't know, that sort of stuff I really love, that whole gameplay element of it. You know, it looks like it has a particular look, but it also functions and works how I sort of imagined it would all come together. Up here, we are creating a bit of it sort of looks like a resort, looks like some apartments. I'm imagining this is some kind of a fancy restaurant slash bar slash resort. So it's a whole package, you know, a bit of a resort and bar sort of thing going on. It's pretty fancy, like that's what I wanted it to be, super fancy. This is based on the pavilion in Coogee. Been here a couple of times. It's very, it's super nice. It's a really, really nice place to have a drink at. And good food too. So that's what that place is. Kept it so simple, like very under detailed. Didn't want to do a huge amount there. Kind of leading to, you know, the problem that I alluded to before about this series, how, you know, I'm having a bit of a problem where, you know, originally, I mean, I did that whole spiel when I first started this series, you know, how I wanted to, you know, make sure that every single area was super detailed, and, you know, we're going to keep it simple and, you know, scaled down version of a city, and how I was going to make it all different like that. And I have been to some extent, but the problem is because I keep expanding out, mostly due to the fact that I'm trying to squeeze too many ideas of Australia within, I guess, not a huge amount of space. At least it wasn't that huge, and then I've made mountains get a little bit smaller, and I've crept into areas that I wasn't going to creep into. You know, even just creating all the rivers and the waterways, I've like toned down how many waterways there are within Dundee. You know, based on the ones within Sydney, there's waterways everywhere. There are headlands everywhere. It's just a, you know, it's a massive area. So I thought, okay, I'm going to tone that down. I'll just make 2 or 3. And because they take up huge amounts of space, and you're trying to put so many ideas within this area, then you build something like a, you know, Olympic Park that takes up, is of course going to take up a huge amount of space. Then you've got to build all the suburbs around there. Then all of a sudden your suburbs aren't quite as unique as you anticipated they would be. The city has expanded out to be, you know, it is the size, I guess, like I always anticipated building a beachside neighborhood out this way, but I think like it's sort of impossible to make sure that every single place is exactly how I anticipated it to expand out to be. Definitely not a problem because, you know, it is a problem. Definitely not the worst thing in the world, I should say, because I still think that it's expanding out how I like it, and I'm gonna keep on doing it because I do really enjoy what we're doing, but it's definitely not exactly how I anticipated this whole thing to be working out. And we're still working in Dundee. We haven't even touched the other areas. I don't know. There's just a couple of things that I just sort of look back at and go, that really got out of control. that really got out of hand. And it's just it's always just such a thing that I constantly think about within playing this game. I think I'm gonna make an entire video about something like this. You know, look what I'm doing now. We're building a whole nother suburb, a whole nother beachside place. And I think it kind of comes down to the fact that when you build a map from scratch, it's really hard to imagine how it's going to expand out because you've got no reference of roads or reference of houses or even how downtown's going to look. And even when I built and, created the map, I planned out a lot of that sort of stuff. So I even had like roads I'd drag out and buildings I'd spawn in, and I'd play the map for like a couple of hours to make sure that things are going to fit into the right spot. But it's so hard to imagine it when you don't really have a huge amount of reference. Now that we're at this size, I realize that, Dundee is probably going to expand out. I mean, I don't want to say double, but we haven't even reached over the other side of the bay. So we've still got a fair amount to do. So when I do another series, yes, I will do another series. One is actually in the works at the moment. Still ages away, but this is how long it takes me to start planning and getting ideas. But I have already started thinking about how I'm going to try and tackle this concept of squeezing in as much detail and, scaling down these places the best that I can. Even better than what I'm doing right now. I'm really gonna try and tackle that. And like I'm super excited for it. Like I again still super pumped for Oceania. Still so much I want to do. Still gonna get into the desert and all that. But I'm already starting to think about how can I refine this and make it exactly how I sort of envision this whole place to expand out to. Because I mean, look at this. We're building a whole nother neighborhood out here, and I never anticipated this to expand out to more than just the one Bondi inspired place. But here we are. We've got a whole nother neighborhood. What is this going to be? I mean, this has got to be the last place we build in Dundee. This is going to be like the furthest area we can possibly get to. We've even got like a lighthouse out here, which is just gorgeous. I love this lighthouse. But what are we going to, like, what's the vibe out here? What are we going to be going for? I was taking inspiration from places around Wellington. Just seeing how the expansion of Wellington sort of creeps into this mountainous area, this whole mountainous region, the edges of Wellington, and seeing how that looks. It's currently got a bit of a small town coastal sort of feel to it. So I don't know, maybe like this is what the outer edge of the city looks like. And, this whole, where it meets the natural environment, we're still got to work on that. I feel like there's got to be something out here, maybe some sort of water treatment facility, or I don't know, something else. Something else has to be out there, but I'm not quite sure what it is. But I mean, we built a lot. There's a lot out here. There's a lot of names to be suggested, a lot of stories, a lot of, a lot of things to come up with. So if you're interested in building any of those sort of things, getting some ideas, comments below would be good, but you can also jump into my Discord server. We've got a whole channel dedicated for names and ideas. There are people who are collaborators working on the interactive maps with me, and they're looking around and seeing for suggestions and taking the best ones, or just a bunch of ones to put onto that interactive map. So look out for that. Your name, your suggestions might be included. The last little things I'm going to be doing is, look at this, putting in some waves. Something I've always wanted to do. Ronix released this, I feel like 2017 or something, and I'm only just getting into using some of these waves. First time, damn, they look good. These look so good. So putting down some waves, and just a little sneaky Sharky boy just floating around. I mean, I feel like that Sharky boy is just a little bonus for anybody who just watched all the way to the end of this episode. Anyway, guys, that is it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching so much to the end. So much information, so much we got through today. So thank you all so much for sticking around. Let me know if you're getting involved in any of those challenges. There's a link below if you want to donate to the cause. You can get involved with the tram liveries, or you can get involved with the tram network, or you can check out my moustache on Twitter or Instagram. I don't know. Too many links down below. Enjoy them all. Special shout outs to the wonderful people over on Patreon supporting the channel. Terry Groff, Brett 4, Valerie, the Act Federation, Tony Perrick, VNDK8R, Andrew Blue Moon, Matt Kelm, Alex Calvert, and Ricardo Scoparo. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Catch you later.